when you go through something like that feels like rock bottom, you have like two paths to choose from. Personally, that's how I feel. You can be angry and bitter and cry about it and just focus on how you feel certain parts of it were unfair. Or you can choose to just digest it and be thankful for all of the things that you do have.
I'm Tom Ward, and over the last couple years, I've had the chance to sit down with some of the biggest celebrities and influencers in the world. What I've always found most fascinating is the stories of the businesses that they've built behind the scenes. On this show, you'll get an inside look of what it takes to build a successful business from some of the biggest celebrities, business people, and up-and-coming entrepreneurs in the world. This is The Tom Ward Show.
Welcome to The Tom Ward Show, where we talk to the biggest entrepreneurs in the world. Today we have Stassi Schroeder Clark. She's a New York Times best-selling author. She's a podcaster. She's a reality TV star. She's a mom. She's so much more. Welcome.
Thank you, Tom. One of the biggest entrepreneurs. I'm here. Yeah. I feel a little bit like a fraud, but like, what an intro! Not? What an intro not? That was. Thank you.
I do say that for everybody.
Okay. You know.
No, what I like, first of all, I'm super happy you're here.
No, thank you.
But
I'm happy to be here.
You have built several successful businesses, so why shouldn't you be up there?
Don't we all feel this way, though?
What do you mean?
You know, there is this imposter syndrome that we're all feeling. It never goes away. I have felt it from the beginning, and I still feel it. And even now that my career is shifted and I'm way more proud of it now because I had to really start over, I still feel like an imposter.
Really?
Yeah, it never goes away. And I'm really, you know what? I'm over it. I need to talk to my therapist about that. I'm over imposter syndrome.
Yeah, because just looking from an outsider, like, you're massively successful. One, so just talk of reality TV. Yeah. How many people want to be on a reality show? 1 million. How many get on? A small percentage. How many shows last past the first season?
Right.
Not many.
I know.
Who becomes star of a show for 7 seasons and like keeps the whole thing going and builds multiple brands around that?
I see, but it feels like I
on
was...
paper, it looks good.
It does, but I was also in the right place at the right time. I happen to be good at reality TV. I think I'm good at being vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think I'm good at being vulnerable and being open and honest, but like, that's not a talent.
I think so.
And I was surrounded by a whole team of producers and editors and people I really admire to help me out and
we don't do it alone, of course.
Yeah, so I don't know.
But you still had something.
You're right. Yes, I did. I have some good one-liners.
Yes.
And, I think that's a little interesting.
You're likable. You have a personality. You can command an audience, like, on multiple platforms, whether...
Thank you.
There's enough kissing at the beginning, but why not, right? Just keep it going. You can do it on TV. You can do it on multiple mediums. You could do it on a podcast. You can do it on a podcast solo. You could do it with your husband.
Listen, don't forget, I podcast tour. I do that too.
You write.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a pretty good content creator.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel great right now. Thank you.
Well, it's kind of nice to see. This is kind of the rebirth of Stassi after a 2-year hiatus. New book, New York Times bestsellers out. You've got 2 podcasts out right now. Does it seem sweeter the second time around?
Oh, 100%.
Does it?
When I say I don't take anything for granted now, like, I really mean I don't take anything for granted. Like, and to know that after everything happened and after I lost like 99% of my jobs and income, I decided, I was like, well, I never want to be in the position again where I have to rely on a lot of people. I don't want to be fireable again. Granted, that's not completely realistic. You're always going to be in a situation where you can be fired in some way, and in the situation I'm in now, it would be up to my listeners to fire me, for them to just decide
that's who you work for.
Yeah, I work for my listeners now. Like, I'm not interested in her anymore, so that could still happen. But I wanted to just start my career again in a way where I wanted as little help as possible, and I think that's what started the podcast, The Good, the Bad, the Baby, that I do with my husband, that I put on Patreon, because my co-host is my husband. Our income is going into the same house. I don't have to rely on somebody else in another household. I don't have to have a company that I'm working for. I'm working for myself, and it's a subscription-based platform, which is so underrated right now.
It's one of the best kind of businesses.
It's like, what could I do? What kind of career could I have where I needed as little help as possible. And that's like what really started it. And everything that I feel like I've done since then has been, how can I have as little help as possible? So when something becomes a success, like the book or like the Patreon or like Straight Up with Stassi, it really means a lot because I feel very capable.
Well, in case you don't know, 2 years ago, Stassi was involved in an incident during the height of the Black Lives Matter movement that didn't go well and really caused your career to implode.
Yes.
And talk about that week after it was revealed. What happened? I mean, who left first and who stuck around the longest?
Oh my God. Well, Lo stuck around. Lo.
Shout out Lo.
Shout out to Lo. She started as my assistant. Now she's just like kind of my partner and everything, and also like works as manager and all that. So she has stuck around, and I couldn't do anything without her. But everyone kind of let's see, everyone
That's
kind
an
of
easy answer, yeah.
Yeah, no. And the way that I always think about it is like it was, like the world was created in 7 days. It was the opposite of that.
It was destroyed in 7 days.
It was destroyed in 7 days. It was like every day I woke up, there was a new thing that I got a call being like, you've been fired from this, you've been fired for this contract, that's not it anymore. So it all happened in a week.
Okay.
And it was like one thing every day.
Well, now I see. Okay, the brands are always going to be the first to go. Brands
And
don't want controversy. That's a given.
I expected that. I mean, once everything started coming out and I started reading about myself, and I'm like, this is not going to be good. I know that my sponsors on my podcast they're gonna go this afternoon.
Of course.
And that's happened to me before. I've actually been canceled a few times.
So you know the drill.
Yes. And so I expected my sponsors, and then I expected my brand deals. Like that was just, of course.
Yeah.
But then to see like, okay, the show that has been my main source of income for almost 10 years.
And really your whole identity.
And my identity, like that's
You're Stassi from Vanderpump.
Yes, and I'm still Stassi from Vanderpump
That is
Rules
true.
even now. That was a huge deal, and to have my podcast, the company I was with, for them to just rip up that contract, that was also a source of income that I relied on no matter what. And I had sold the rights to my book to Sony to be turned into an animated series. That contract
would have been
was
so cool.
Yeah, it would have. That contract was ripped up. I was doing a show for Bravo called Basically Stassi. That was that. And all the podcast touring that I was doing, they were like, I don't think you can do this now because you don't have a podcast.
Yeah,
so it was literally like everything except I had already signed a second book deal.
Okay.
And I called them begging, crying, and I just said, please. And I was already halfway done writing my second book. And I'm like, I need to just start over. Please don't fire me. Like, please give me the chance to write about this. Like, this is so much more important anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that this is so much more interesting for people to read. And luckily they said yes. So that gave me the hope that I could still survive.
Yeah.
In this country.
What shocked me though is the PR people letting you go.
That shocked me too.
Now look, you watching this don't necessarily probably know what a PR person does. I deal with them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So they represent celebrities, they handle media requests, set up interviews, get them press, they go to
They're
events,
the last ones standing.
They should be the ones.
They're the ones that are the last ones standing with you because it's their job to help you in a situation like that. And my PR was the first ones to go.
Now look, you PR people out there, you've got the easiest job in the world when things are good. When your client's doing great, you just sit back, field requests, yes, no. Everything's incoming, right? When things are bad, that's when you earn your paycheck.
Yes.
Right? That's when you gotta stick by
I mean, that's what I would think.
And they dropped you that quick.
Yeah, that was, to me, we were in uncharted territory with that one. Like, looking back now, it's just like so humorous. But because they did that and they were not quiet about it, like they were just like emailing people back, being like, yeah, we fired her. Or like, yeah, we let her go. Then my agents were they had people breathing down their neck. And so it was like a chain reaction of, well, if her PR is going to drop her, then everyone should be dropping her. Yeah. Like, because the PR should be the last one standing with you.
Yeah.
It's so that when you think about it. But I don't know, maybe I deserved it. And I feel like, you know, it's almost 3 years later.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds so crazy to say, like, I'm glad this happened to me, because it was not a wonderful time. It was not a time that I would like to ever experience again. But I just feel so different as a human being, and I value different things more, and I appreciate things more. And I look back on the way that I used to live my life and like shake my head, and I'm thankful that this happened to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like some of my jobs back,
that would
you know,
be nice.
like, you know, having some extra income would be like nice, but
You know what's funny? I was thinking of you last night, right? So today's February 15th. We're shooting this. Yesterday was Valentine's Day. So I've got all girls in the house. I have a wife and I have 2 daughters, which we talked about. So my wife was making a nice Italian dinner.
yeah.
Then after dinner, we were gonna, because we go to bed at like 9 o'clock because we're old now.
Obviously.
You know the deal.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have 6 o'clock dinner and then stuff our face with candy and watching rom-com after dinner, right?
Yeah.
Because of the high winds, the power goes out at like 6:15 as soon as we were done dinner, right? So of course we're all bummed out. This sucks, right?
Oh.
You don't know when it's gonna come on. So we lit some candles, we had the flashlights out, and I get no signal in my house so without Wi-Fi. It's just the mountains right by there. So
That is
there's no
how
phone
horror
ring.
movies start.
Yes.
Just like FYI.
Yes,
Okay.
100%. It could have went really sideways. And you got 2 kids you got to entertain with no devices.
Oh, that is a horror movie. Yeah.
But the point is, bringing it back to you, was we spent 2 hours with flashlights and candles and just played. No one was on a device. I wasn't on my laptop. No one was checking social media. The kids weren't playing video games. It was just us.
Yeah.
And then I thought of you and kind of putting myself in your shoes at where you were at the time. When you looked around, it was you, your
And my husband. Yeah.
baby on the way,
Yeah.
and I'm sure some close friends stuck by, and that was that.
Yeah.
Is that how you felt?
Oh, 100%. And it was during COVID, so I couldn't really leave my house. But I'm telling you, and I wrote about this in my book. I talk about this a lot. There were so many people that were calling in and checking in on me and worried, and just, I was reading articles about myself that I had checked myself into a center for like depression or losing my mind and all of that stuff. And of course there were moments where I broke down and cried and sobbed and all of that. But for the most part, like when you go through something like that feels like rock bottom, you have like 2 paths to choose from. Personally, that's how I feel. You can be angry and bitter and cry about it and just focus on how you feel certain parts of it were unfair. Or you can choose to just digest it and be thankful for all of the things that you do have. And I would just wake up in the morning and be like, I love this iced coffee that I have. Oh my God, I have a baby in my belly. Like, wow, how lucky am I that my husband is the way that he is? Like the little things. Wow, I really love the show Outlander. Like just the little things.
I heard that, yeah.
Like
and period pieces.
I mean, I could do a whole. Can we just cut this and talk about historical dramas? Like that's all I want to talk about. Like if you focus on the good that you have, it really, like, that's the way to go.
For sure.
It really is. It sounds so like cheesy, but it really works.
Now go pre that, right? Now, I cannot relate to your story being young, famous, and pretty in LA, right? I was young a long, long time ago, and I was never famous or pretty. So I can't relate to that part, right? But I was thinking about you, and I go, I wonder if you're just kind of part of that whole LA scene, you're in your 20s, is everything about the party to get invited to, or the club I'm going to, or how many likes did this get? How many followers did I get? Do you get so wrapped up in that world?
That's so funny because that's another thing I think about. Like I'm in the process of, I have a closet room, which I'm very proud of. And
dreams.
I'm currently like kind of cleaning it out. And because I've realized I go into that room and I have so many clothes and shoes for a life that I don't lead anymore. Yep. And it's taking up space for what? And I think back on what my life used to be like, and you are absolutely correct.
Yeah.
It was, where am I going tonight? And like, is it cool enough? And who am I with? And am I going to be invited to to this party and I have walk this red carpet, get my photo taken here and all that. It's a constant struggle and climb, and
that's the game you're in.
It is the game, and it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
It really is exhausting. And that's also another reason I'm kind of thankful that things happened the way that it did, because my life is so different now.
Yeah, you
can
tell.
And I know what I care about, and I know what matters. It's just everything has shifted.
Now, did Hartford, the kids changed the game?
Yeah.
After Hartford, did that soften you and realize that who cares about how many likes they
No,
get?
but literally,
I mean, of
course, sometimes, of course, you're like, well, I hope my photo gets a lot of likes. I mean, we're only human.
Or
but
I want
like,
more followers, whatever.
Yeah, of course. But absolutely. I mean,
you're not obsessing over it.
No, if kids don't change you, you're a fucking monster. Let's be real.
For sure.
Like,
they changed the game.
Yeah, because it's just your priority shift. I've never understood when people are like, I see these like TikToks and people are like, I'm not going to let a baby change me. I'm going to be exactly who I was before. Like,
that was me.
Oh, was?
I said the same thing. I never made a TikTok, but never spoke about it publicly.
But you said that.
That was my thing. Like, kids aren't going to change me. I'm not going to be at all these events like all the other dads. And
and a lot of people,
I'm there. I actually am that dad.
Well, I just feel like it's okay if a kid changes you, because of course it's going to change you, because you love something way more than yourself or anything else in this world, which means that your priorities are going to change, which means that your like what you do every day is going to change, which means that your likes and interests are going to change. So therefore, what you're about is going to change. You're not going to be the same person you were before, and that's okay. When people are like, I feel like sometimes people can say like, oh my gosh, well, Stassi's like whole identity now is just being a mom. Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because that's what I like, and that's what's really important to me. So I'm sorry if I'm not the same as I was before, and I don't talk about getting faced and, causing fights, but like that's just not me anymore.
And you know why that works? And I'll give you a perfect example. My wife is a fan. I've watched you the whole show. We're reality TV junkies, right?
I'm so embarrassed.
No, you shouldn't be. It was a great show, right, for many years. But she told me this morning, she goes, I never followed Stassi before. She goes, like, I like the show, but like I wasn't really interested in her off the show, kind of what she was up to. But then when she had Hartford, I'm in and I follow her and I like the kid pictures and I like Mom Stassi.
Oh, wait, that makes me emotional. Wait, that's so nice. That's so nice to hear.
And I'm sure she's not the only one.
I mean, I hope you're right, because this is what I got now. This is who I am. This is what I have to offer.
You're not going anywhere. Yeah. So before Hartford comes along, go back a sec. So you're fired from everything.
Yeah.
Bo also
fired and pregnant. That was on the cover of Us Weekly. Someone put that on my birthday cake. Right after I got
fired and pregnant.
And it was like this horrible photo of me. It just said fired and pregnant on my birthday cake. I'm like,
that's nice.
Sweet. But yeah.
Now, Bo, the plan was he was going to quit his job and support you on your book tour and all the other things you were doing, right?
It was mainly the podcast tour and the show. Yeah. Because he had worked in casting. That's what he did. And we had these, before everything happened, we had these serious conversations. Yeah. It's not very comfortable to ask your significant other, do you think you can stop what you've been doing and support my dreams?
Yep.
Like, that's a hard conversation to have. And I sold it to him. I
well
really
done.
did. I was like, we can tour together, which like we will see the whole country, maybe the world, and traveling is our favorite thing to do together. And then also I'm like, and look at this television show where we get to go experience so many fun things and work with so many cool people while we're doing it. And he was like, okay, I get this, and this is what you want, and you need a partner that's there for you, supporting your career. And so he made the decision to do that a few months before he got fired.
So you reminded me of this old Notorious B.I.G. song, baby on the way, mad bills to pay, that's why we drink Tanqueray. And when I was reading that, I'm like, that just popped in my head.
Funny.
Like, that's where you were, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you weren't drinking Tanqueray, but
I wish.
we have wine to drink.
It would have been more helpful.
But what was the plan at that time? I mean, you guys put your heads together and go, okay, now what? We need money.
Oh, yeah. It was really hard. There was a time when we were like, because we've always wanted to live in Italy.
Okay.
My husband's also an Italian citizen. His family's so many of his family members are there.
Oh, cool.
And so we were like, should we bolt? Like, do people hate us here? Because he lost his brand deals.
I was going to ask, did this affect his career too?
Absolutely, yeah. He lost his brand deals, and even the people he was working with and at some of the casting agencies, because he was freelance, he would work all over the place. They like unfollowed him on Instagram, didn't want to call him for things, and so it was that to me is the hardest part of being canceled, is watching the people that you love suffer for your mistakes and things that you've done wrong.
Yeah, it's one thing that affects you.
Absolutely.
You get that, okay.
I completely understand, but to watch my husband and see how it affected him that really, really hurts. But we were like, should we just leave and move to Italy and start a food truck? We were like, we could make American food, like American breakfast in Italy. And we were thinking of any idea, like what is the
That's
life?
actually not a bad idea. Who
It's
doesn't like
not.
breakfast?
So we still think about it.
Breakfast burritos, right?
We still think about it. We're like, but should we just get up and move to Italy? Because that really would be the life. Like, is being in the entertainment industry like everything? And I don't know. I don't know anymore. Like, a quiet life in Italy with a food truck sounds kind of nice, really. Yeah. But we had to really think about, okay, what do we want to do? And one of the beautiful, like, things that come from being at rock bottom is like the options are endless.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, we could literally do anything.
Yeah.
But I had to like sit there and think. He went back to casting for a while, and that helped a little bit. But I had to think of like, okay, well, what is it that I like doing?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that I'm good at? And what can I do where I don't require that much help? And so it was kind of a no-brainer to start the podcast that we started together because we were stuck at home and all of that. So why not? And to do a subscription-based platform, because I knew there were at least enough people out there that still wanted to hear from me and believed that I am a good person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know? So I had to really hope that was the move. I had to really trust myself. And I think that, you know, another thing I learned is just the importance of patience. And you don't have to constantly be relevant. You don't have to constantly be working on something. You don't have to take any opportunity that comes your way. I think working on one thing and doing it well and being patient with it just is really important.
Mm-hmm. You know, so you start this, and I was thinking about like your entrepreneurial career. I got to give the Vanderpump crew credit because I think you guys didn't whore yourself out as much as other reality stars do.
Really? Because it felt like
I don't think so. I know, because look at any Real Housewife.
Yeah,
they're selling hats. They've got. I can think of 6 who have their own candle brands.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're saying selling nonsense, all right? And every one of them fails. And whenever they're talking to their husband and saying, we should invest $300,000 in this, I'm screaming at the TV, no, it's gonna fail. You're gonna lose all your money, right? I remember you guys did the wine. That was the only thing I could really remember that you guys created on the show.
And that wasn't for me.
Oh,
I bowed out of that. That was actually, it was a storyline how I didn't want to do that
really
anymore.
So did you create a brand?
We did. I did with 2 of my friends on the show, Katie and Kristen, and I just realized that I prefer to work alone.
Yeah.
I don't really like being tied to anyone because there's not that much freedom in that. And I don't know, maybe that was just like a warning of what was to come. Like, you know, the people around you will drop like flies.
But did you have, after that experience, did you have, you know, like a long-term brand of, I would always like to start this company, or I would like to have a brand of this, or do what a Lauren Conrad's doing, or a Jessica Alba, or have your own kind of thing? Was that, or were you focused more on the entertainment side and go, I don't really feel like dealing with those headaches?
I wasn't really about having a product so much.
Yeah.
I really wanted to, when I sold my book to Sony to do this animated show, I thought that, like, okay, this is what I've worked for. I could be in a writer's room with other writers working on something, creating something. I really enjoy creating things. And I do like creating a brand that doesn't involve, like, a product. Like, I feel like I did a really, you know, clever job of creating this basic brand at exactly the right time.
Yep.
And I've always wanted to work in little divisions of the entertainment industry, whether that was behind the scenes or in front of the camera. And that's kind of where my focus had always been.
Oh, okay. You talked to before, you were saying that, I wanted to focus on something I was good at, that I had talent for, that I was passionate about. What was that?
And
Was
that
it
was
podcasting or
podcasting.
just talking to an audience?
I guess, now that I've always thought it was just podcasting, but now that you
book?
asked that question, it's communicating with an audience. It's entertaining an audience through my truth, through my own experiences. And, I know that there are women that I like to listen to, and I love when they're honest, and I look up to them. And so if I could continue to be that, that's, I guess, what it was. I thought it was podcasting, but I guess it is just the art of storytelling and communicating and bearing your soul.
Yes. Well, I think if I had to, if you said what's Stassi's talent, I would say she can
bear her soul.
She can command an audience.
Oh, thank you.
And you can move an audience from different platforms, which is not easy to do.
Oh, thanks.
You see that all the time. You see somebody who's big on Instagram, who's trying to get on YouTube, but no one cares, or they start a podcast and no one cares.
I'm trying to get my TikTok numbers up.
And well, you got to start posting. You got to start posting 2-3 times a day. Get on that. Come on. Lo will handle it for you. She'll be your social media manager too.
I know. She tries to light a fire under my but I just get lazy. Okay.
So what was your process writing the book? So you got the podcast coming in, you're doing revenue, you're getting that, but you still have a book to write too.
Oh, no, the book came first.
Oh, the book came first before the podcast.
The book came first. I decided once everything happened in 2020, I'm like, I don't want people to hear from me. It's also not my time to speak right now. It is, if there was a moment for me to shut the up and listen, it was exactly that moment.
Yeah.
So I said, I want to take a year off. I want to focus on being more than a year, because I said until Hartford turned 1.
Okay.
So I'm like, I guess I didn't, because I started Patreon a little before that. But for the most part, I wanted to just chill, be pregnant, be a mom, and write this book quietly.
Okay.
And that's what I did. And that was my job during COVID, to just sit and write a few hours every day. I would write in Hartford's nursery, because I set that shit up when I was 2 months pregnant. And that was the process.
Is it hard writing a book? What's your process? You've written 2?
It's hard when your vision isn't crystal clear.
Oh, okay.
But when your vision is, and when you know exactly what you want to say and the point you're trying to make, it's the easiest fucking thing in the world.
Now, isn't that true in anything you do creatively? Like when you're doing your podcast, if you have a rough idea, maybe I'll go this way or this way, it's different than, man, I'm all fired about this, and this, and that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah, you're totally right. This feels like a therapy session. You're right.
Yeah,
no, you're right.
I'm an unpaid therapist, basically. So you've got Straight Up with Stassi's back now too.
Yes.
And I do a lot of prep for these things, and I was checking out your podcast, and I'm cracking up because I go, okay, I've known Stassi as a character on TV for 7 years or whatever you're there. I've seen you on social media. So I go, I have a picture in my mind of what Straight Up with Stassi is going to look like. Because you did it before too. It's like, it's going to be, talking about a Kardashian, some stuff about your life, pop culture stuff, right?
Right.
So we see that. But then all of a sudden, the next episode I see is with Jay Shetty talking about love language. I'm like, is this Daily Mail meets Oprah? What is this show?
Okay. First of all, write that on my tombstone. Stassi Schroeder. Here lies Stassi Schroeder. Daily Mail meets Oprah.
Yes. Is that what it is?
I love that. What can I say? I'm a multifaceted queen.
I know.
I don't know.
There's many sides to Stassi.
Listen, I struggle sometimes with the podcast, and I'm like, is this off brand? Is this too out of does this make sense? And then I try and take a step back, and I'm like, the podcast is mine. It can be whatever I want. Now, if I want to sit there and talk about the Medicis in Florence, Italy, and the show that came out about it in 2016 for a whole hour.
Fascinating banking family.
Thank you. Yes. I'm like, I should be able to do that. Will it be a little all over the place to have Straight Up with Stassi be about a lot of random Yeah, but that's also who I am.
Yeah. And
so that's why I have Jay Shetty, and I also have Pop Culture Hour, where I do talk about celebrities. Yeah.
Well, I interviewed your buddies, Lauren and Michael Bostic.
I love them.
They're great people.
I love them.
So I interviewed them, I don't know, a couple months ago. And they were saying, too, we were just talking about podcasting and how they approach it. And they said, we'll do 3 with like thought leaders or like, people talking about emotions. And then we'll be like, let's just fly in a sex worker from Vegas.
I love
and
that.
just go like way the other way with it.
Yeah.
And just because like if there's too much of that.
Totally.
We need to like do something extreme.
And we need to surprise people. We need to keep people on their toes.
Yeah. Then no one wants to see the same thing.
Yeah, it can't be
over.
predictable.
No. So what else we got? We got the books. We got the podcasts. We have 2 podcasts.
2 podcasts. I'm working on bringing my podcast tour back.
Oh, nice. Okay.
For this year. So that's something I'm really excited about because the thought of like traveling and being on stage again without people throwing tomatoes at me is like really exciting. And I'm working on my 3rd book. So
oh, no way.
So that's where my focus is right now. I feel like something happened in the beginning of 2023 where I feel way more open to being out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think like I was a little shy after what happened. And so the 2.5 years after that, I kind of wanted to just like stay as off the radar as possible while still working.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I think I could push myself a little bit more.
In the beginning when I, gave you props for being an entrepreneur, you're like, yeah, right, whatever. But now I look at you and go, you're absolutely a fucking entrepreneur. Like, look what you have going on around. You work for yourself. Okay, you have a deal with a book company, but that's you. People aren't looking over your shoulder every day to see if you're working, right? You hit your deadlines and it's good and people leave you alone, right?
Yeah.
You work with somebody, I'm sure, to set up the tour and stuff, but that's your tour,
Yeah.
right? Same thing with the podcast. You got a couple podcasts going on. There's no boss. There's no one telling you we didn't like that episode last week, or you should change this, or you need a co-host, or you need this person as a guest.
All right,
it's all kind of you.
You know what? I'm going to go home and I'm going to tap my daughter on the shoulder and be like, your mom's a boss.
For real. You kind of are.
Thank you.
And was that just because of getting dropped by everyone that you kind of were forced to be? Like, no one's going to make money for me. Unless I figure it out.
No, you're forced to be, but also like my burning desire after I was dropped by everything was I don't want to be in the position again where I am so fireable. Like I want to be able to work for myself. That's something that is so important to me now.
Yeah. Is that worth more than a big contract doing another reality show?
I don't know.
Unless
that's really good money.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
If you're not a producer?
Well, no. I feel like I'd have to be a producer at this point. I feel like I could not live with myself if I just went and joined another show without being a producer. Like it'd be like, have I learned nothing? Yes. Yeah. So, yeah.
Would you do another one?
If you would have asked me last year, I would have been like, absolutely not. But I get more comfortable with the idea every day, and I miss it. Like it was a lot of fun to be filming, and I loved the people that I worked with, and it would have to be the right thing. I couldn't go back.
You're not going to the clubs.
No, I don't do anything like that. I'm really not fighting with people, arguing. I don't have that much drama in my life.
But that's kind of bad for a reality show.
Exactly. So, if I ever did something, it would have to be the most wholesome thing ever. And you know what? I feel like I'm starved for wholesome television.
Yeah.
So maybe other people are.
Well, people like like my wife's an example. She would watch your reality show with your husband and your, kid running around and going to the store or going to Target and spending too much money or whatever you're going to do on a Saturday.
Great.
I don't know. It seems interesting.
Call some people up. There are people who watch us go to Target.
make it happen. Well, thank you so much. This was a pleasure sitting down with you.
Thank you.
Let's give away a copy of your book.
I would love to do that.
All right. So, guys, make sure you subscribe to my newsletter in the comments below. Subscribe and we'll give away some books. We'll just pick some of you at random. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. New interviews every Tuesday at 10 a.m. with the biggest entrepreneurs in the world. And make sure you check out the audio version of the podcast too, available on all podcast platforms. Thanks, guys.